We always talk about kind of technology scaling, but again, I'm always thinking about like people and community, and being able to scale the crypto community and the blockchain community to have it more integrated with the wider internet community is a really important thing, and will actually take our business to that next level and exponentially grow it. And because I think that, Jason will tell you about his background, to me, he really represents one of the key kind of figures in this space. So let's give him a round of applause just to welcome him.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll just start by saying, first of all, thank you very much to the Kinetic team, to Jehan and John. I gotta say, Jehan is the connector. He spoke at the beginning about, he's like his own blockchain. He spoke at the beginning about how, there's a lot of technology in this space, obviously, and a lot of interesting projects. But Jehan is the relationship guy, and it's just been incredibly impressive. He knows everyone in the industry, and he's connected us with the right folks. One of the things that we've tried to do with Simple Token is to really make sure that we're bringing together the right team and taking a really professional approach to our project. And Jehan's been a critical asset and link to that, and I encourage everyone here to get to know the team at Kinetic and leverage their resources as best you can. I'll also say it's great to be here in Hong Kong. I'm an American. I live in Berlin. I spend about 50% of my time in Pune, India. Nisha Shah, my co-founder, we've been collaborating on projects for about 10 years now. He's based in Pune, India. We have a team of people there. And we've set up shop here in Hong Kong for a number of reasons that Henry pointed to, that Charles pointed to. Simple Token is we've actually set up two companies here in Hong Kong. One is a foundation, and then one is a for-profit company, the Simple Token Company. Today I want to talk about three things to give you an overview of Simple Token. The first thing is to talk about the team, so who we are. The second thing is to talk about what problem we're trying to solve. And then third, we'll go deep into some of the ways that we're going about solving it. And Ben Bolin is here. Ben is our Chief Technology Strategist. Ben was the lead developer on Hyperledger Burrow. He's joined our team, and he's going to give a little technical walkthrough about some of the interesting technical challenges that we're solving at Simple Token. So very high level. Simple Token is a bridge between consumer apps and crypto. All right, and the way to think about it is that there's amazing technology that's being developed in the crypto world. It's the very early days of what some people are calling, Web 3.0, decentralized apps. The technology, though, is not quite there yet for consumer internet companies. And we believe that consumer internet companies need an on-ramp in order to embrace blockchain. And that's what we're doing. I guess, in terms of our team and our experience. So I've been in the internet space for 20 years. I've had a number of different companies that we've founded. We've scaled companies like Fab.com, which did over $350 million in sales, was once a unicorn. We did a company called Social Median, which was a pioneer in the news, social collaboration, news filtering space. And I got to say, this is the most exciting project that I've ever worked on by far. And so it's great that you kind of keep at things and keep at things. That every now and again you come across something and you kind of work your way towards something. This is a really pinnacle of my career in terms of the excitement of this project and what's the capabilities of Simple Token. Our team, so myself, Nishith, we've been working together, as I said, since 2007. This is our seventh company together, seventh brand that we've done together. Ben joined us recently as Chief Technology Strategist. I've known Ben for a couple of years in Berlin. It's a great blockchain scene in Berlin, great ecosystem there. Leo and Antoine are here local in Hong Kong from Enuma, who do the smart contracts work for folks like EOS, OpenANX. And Sunil, who's worked with Nishith and I for 10 years plus now, based in Pune, India. As you can see, we've really taken a lot of time towards putting together the right team of partners around us as well. And we've really taken the approach of, take a very professional approach of making sure that we're working with the best in the business. On the legal side, we've taken a lot of precautions. We're working both with KWM here in Hong Kong and their offices around the world, as well as Perkins Coie, based in Silicon Valley in New York. Smith & Crown, based in Portland. You saw their name on the last slide. They really are the absolute leaders in the world on token economics. Some incredible minds on looking at how to build token economies. We're working with PwC. We're not allowed to put their name on slides, but thank you. And we have a great backup group here, Spark Chain, Duo, Peepo, which is another company that we founded. So every good business starts with one of those kind of sparks, one of those moments. And I'll tell you walk you through a couple of aha moments that we had with Simple Token. So to give you a back up a little bit, in January of last year, I started a company called Peepo. And Peepo is a really cool app. It's for basically looking at democratizing and decentralizing user-generated content, reviews, tips, local travel. And we had this idea from the very beginning that a way for us to basically to disrupt the incumbents, folks like TripAdvisor, Yelp, and others, was rather than people giving away their content for free to those services, which monetize them based on audience models. So basically, people give away free content every day to these centralized apps who then build advertising-based businesses around people's content. We had this basically the concept, well, what if we were to kind of turn the model on its head and enable the people who are contributing the tips and the reviews to basically to earn money if people find value from the content they're contributing, and then to sell services around that. So really building an economy around user-generated content, tips, and reviews. And so we started thinking about tokenization about 15 months ago. We started thinking about, well, rather than previous attempts to build an economy with things like virtual currencies, which break down because they're virtual, right? At a certain point, if you earn a lot of virtual currency, you want to convert it to something. Or gamification, where for a certain point of time, it can be fun becoming the mayor of your local Starbucks, but what does that get you? And sometimes the game gets old. We looked at a token. Could be a very interesting way because it's tied to an actual real-life currency that is tradable, that a token can help fuel an economy, right? And that a token that things like whether it's Bitcoin and Ethereum, which for the most part today are really about kind of transferring value between two parties, could actually become things about earning and spending. All right, it could be about actually someone providing a service in exchange for a token and earning earning a token in exchange for creating value, providing value. The big aha moment we had about 3 or 4 months ago was we went and really dug in deep as to how would we tokenize this app, Peepo. And we looked at all the technology that we would need to build. We looked at that we would need to build user-friendly wallets. We would need to look at things like how do you scale on, not because public Ethereum doesn't scale on its own to the size of what, at least today, what kind of consumer internet companies need. How to handle things like KYC checks, to do identity, to look at things like sorry, I have a cold, excuse me, to basically how to make the technology that's kind of underlying on the blockchain to be user-friendly for consumers. And we just found like we kept running into wall after wall after wall of kind of we'd have to build this, 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 to the point where a lot of folks said to us, what, come back in a couple of years. Literally, a lot of folks in the blockchain community said, the idea is very interesting, but tokenizing an app, really come back in a couple of years because technology is just not there yet. And just wait, and it'll get there. And that was kind of one of those aha moments to us where we said, why wait? We should build this. And so we started this. They had this concept where rather than building the technology for a single app to be able to tokenize and be able to benefit from blockchain, we said, why don't we build this for everyone? And that was like the kernel of the idea behind Simple Token was rather than building basically we could be the on-ramp for consumer internet companies to enable them to embrace blockchain and to launch their own tokens in a safe, secure environment in a scalable manner, and also to handle some really tough stuff like price stabilization, price oracles, KYC check, and do this on behalf of all these various companies. Second aha moment was when we realized that for the most part, most of the blockchain community today has really thought about it as kind of like an all or nothing. Either your entire business is on a blockchain or you're not in the blockchain space. And we kind of said, this sounds like a false premise. That there's thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of millions of consumer apps out there that could benefit from having a part of their business on the blockchain. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing proposition. And so we took the approach and we really challenged this and said, rather than saying that every kind of company in the future is going to be a DAO or every organization is going to be a DAO and that every app is going to be a DApp, what if we could enable any consumer business to have parts of their business on a blockchain and to benefit from that? So no doubt that blockchain has unleashed an incredible wave of innovation. There is an entire ecosystem of technology that's being developed for the underpinnings of blockchain technology, and incredible projects underway. For a consumer app, if you wanted to embrace blockchain, if you wanted to add a token layer to your app, you could potentially pull together a piece here, a piece here, a piece here, a piece here, and build your own front end and handle a lot of things. Your developers, though, would have to learn all this stuff and kind of bring all this together. And so a simple way to think about what we're doing at Simple Token is we're simplifying a lot of this. We're creating a very simple on-ramp for consumer internet companies to get the benefits of blockchain without having to build it themselves. So what we're doing is productizing blockchain for consumer apps. And you think about what we're trying to achieve here is, today it might seem for us, for those of us in the crypto world, that we've seen the market cap of Ethereum and Bitcoin skyrocket, and for those of us who are very close to it, it feels like it's crypto, crypto, crypto. But the reality of it is it's really still early days for crypto technology. And if you look at the number of consumers out there who have a crypto wallet versus the number of Twitter users or Instagram users or WeChat payments users or global internet population, we have a long way to go to bridge that gap from crypto to consumer. And that's what we're trying to achieve with Simple Token. So think about from a consumer business standpoint, there's millions of apps in the app stores, whether it's the iPhone App Store or the Google Play Store. And what every single consumer app is looking for is how do they better engage their audience, how do they better grow their audience, and how do they monetize their audience. And how do they do so while disrupting incumbents? Because every business story has someone that they're trying to take a little business away from. And a big part of what every consumer app struggles with is how to do this without having the value leak to the big guys, right? So paying the Google tax or the Facebook tax or the Apple tax in order to grow your app. It costs on average about $9 per app install on Facebook. That's not even good high quality app install. That's just to get an app install. So imagine, unless you're a 1 in a billion app like Snapchat or WhatsApp, that grows without kind of paying for app installs, it can cost tens of millions of dollars to grow a user base, which is not not tenable. So what a lot of folks have said is, well, a way to kind of to get around this and to empower users could be in a token, right? You could use tokens for incentive programs, for rewards programs, for actually creating basically for paying your users in some ways for the value they're creating or kind of providing to an app. And so whether it's for microtransactions or decentralizing parts of your app or interoperability, other services, there's been like this aha moment where a lot of folks have said, well, if we had an Ethereum token or Ethereum-based token, we could use this as a way to kind of provide this value to our users and for us as an app. But the reality is this stuff's really, really hard. And the truth of this is just, you think about like the barriers to entry from a pure monetary standpoint. It'll cost $500,000 plus for any app to go through kind of an ICO process. Incredibly high effort and complexity. And just the fact of the matter is that the technology is just not there today. If you go back to the chart I showed here, lots of great technology being built. But if you're a consumer app developer, this is not what you know. What you know is your users and your app. And for you to cobble that together is incredibly complicated. And it's kind of, we can't imagine, can't pretend that every app developer is suddenly become a blockchain expert overnight. If you think about kind of analogous kind of situations, Uber, for instance, everyone's familiar with Uber, could have built its own messaging system for it to send messages to the users and to the drivers. But of course it didn't, because it's not the core business. So instead they built on Twilio. And Twilio is a platform that enables messaging for apps. Or any app developer could build their own payment platform to be able to accept payments. But of course they don't. They use Stripe. Or an e-commerce site could build their own shopping store from the ground up. But of course they don't, because their focus is on their SKUs and their users. So they use something like Shopify or BigCommerce. And what we're doing at Simple Token is akin to just like that. We're building a software business, a software company that makes it really easy for any consumer app to kind of benefit from blockchain and benefit from blockchain technologies. Now, I will say one other thing. We've seen a lot of really scary stuff in the kind of ICO space. And it's one thing I'd say that there's a lot of companies out there that have looked at, they don't look at the engagement growth monetization, and Ethereum token can help us with this. All they're seeing is dollar signs right now in terms of ICO as a fundraising standpoint. And I think one caution I would say is we take the approach that an ICO is not a fundraising event. An ICO is a token generation event, and the purpose of the token generation event should be to empower a community. It should be to create almost an endowment for your users, for your network. And the fact that you are able to have some people who are buying your token is a validation of the utility of your token. And it's really important. Every time I enter in a conversation where I hear people talking about prices of tokens and how we're doing a token sale because it's going to enable us to make lots of money, I just want to go take a shower. Because it's the wrong way to do this. We look at it with Simple Token, we're building a business first. And the business of Simple Token is a software business. We're building software to enable consumer internet companies to bridge this gap from crypto to consumer. The token is an enabler. And I'll walk you through now how the token enables this to happen. So basically, the thing about Simple Token is we're building a technology suite that would enable app developers to manage a token economy. And a token economy could be, let's say, if you want to have the easiest example, I think, for a lot of people to grasp onto is reward systems, point systems, right? We use airline points, miles, hotel points, Starbucks points. There's many, many, many other examples of how consumer companies could benefit from having a token. But what we're providing is a software suite for them to basically not have to do their own token sale, to not have to have a floated token, but instead to build their token based off of Simple Token in a controlled, safe environment, with us giving the tools to help power their token economy. So this is an example of kind of a dashboard for how you would manage your token economy. And a way to think about what we're building here is it's a technology stack that enables this kind of on-ramp for these consumer companies. So we have a number of different modules that we're building. The first is we call the token design module. And the way to think about it is every company starts with Simple Token, which is our ERC20 token. And they're able to then stake Simple tokens against created their own branded tokens. So it could be Jehan token. We're going to use Jehan token today. So Jehan acquires a bunch of Simple token and then stakes that in a smart contract against creating Jehan tokens. He's able to brand his token. He's able to set an exchange rate. So let's say he starts with $1 million worth of Simple token, does 101 exchange rate, so he creates 100 million Jehan tokens. And then is also able to create various types of token types and token restrictions. So for instance, Jehan might say that tokens that we give to our users for free to warm them up in the network can't be cashed out. So you're not giving people free money. You're giving them something they can only spend within the network. So it's a restricted token type. Or it could be that it's a token that is unlocked as a reward based on user behavior. And maybe that token expires after a certain period of time if the user doesn't make use of it. And so the point is, you couldn't do that with real cash, with real fiat. You give someone fiat, they're just going to put it in their pocket. And so that's one of the things that have these various types of token types. The second is we provide an identity module. So the identity module is, if you're giving people tokens for various incentives and rewards, you don't want to have one person creating 1,000 accounts and just giving themselves tokens. So we have an identity module to help ensure that everyone's one person. And then also handling KYC checks as a service, right? Not something that every consumer app's going to want to build themselves, that we enable them to have a very easy way, if your user's cashing out above a certain fiat value, that they have to go through certain levels of KYC. Wallet modules. How many people here have a crypto wallet? Okay, so we are not like most people in the world. Crypto wallets are very complex, right? They're very confusing. You probably have a hardware backup to it. What we want to do is have a really consumer-friendly wallet where most consumers don't even need to know crypto keys. They can take over them if they want to, but a very consumer-friendly wallet that can be skinned across multiple applications, that gives the full transaction history, that enables people to top up, buy more tokens, and to cash out in exchange. Transaction modules, so this is kind of really the meat of it, being able within your consumer app to be able to set up various types of transactions. If you go back to the Shopify example, it's kind of in Shopify, you set up certain types of SKUs of products you're selling. Within Simple Token, it's being able to set up various types of transactions, whether it's, you might want to say there's your peer-to-peer transactions that are entirely decentralized, frictionless, with no transaction fee. There might be other types of peer-to-peer transactions where the community wants to take a small commission or a transaction fee on the transaction. B2C transactions, recurring subscriptions. There could be around monetizing your API. So basically being able to set up these various types of transactions that their token can handle. Other modules, a ledger. So we all talk about ledgers, how to make that really user-friendly, and so that it's fully auditable in a way that consumers actually can kind of tap into this. Rights modules, administration modules. This is actually, think about all the back-end tools and that the systems that kind of app developers need. If you think about analogous to, say, your Google Analytics or your Facebook Analytics, to be able to monitor your economy, to see what the sources and sinks are, to see where people are hoarding tokens, to see early fraud warnings and monitoring. So building all that system tools so that people can manage their economy in an efficient way. And then interoperability, which I'll talk about both within the Simple Token network and then across the broader Ethereum, because it's actually where this gets really exciting. So a simple diagram of how this works is a person or entity acquires Simple Token, right? And so they might acquire it through a token sale. We're looking at also at models like, AWS grew really, really big because they enabled developers to not have to pay for the racks and the servers, but just to pay for use as they're using the systems, and so as they're using storage. So we're looking at ways we can scale kind of on almost like a monthly kind of fee based on just like buying tokens up front. We have something we've called proof of contribution, kind of a new term where providing bounties to developers, and that they provide, whether it's design help or development support, that they could earn tokens that they could use in their community. As well as one of the reasons for us to have a token behind this is to be able to give founding member grants to early adopters, help them build the ecosystem. So consumer apps who want to come on early and help us work with this is to seed them with token grants to help them get their economies going. And then basically what happens is someone starts by acquiring Simple Token. They use the software, they get their economy ready, they kind of almost like, let's say they're using a sandbox or staging environment. They apply for us for membership and the right to basically convert Simple Token to their branded tokens. And then they launch the branded tokens on side chains. And everything that happens within their own community happens on a scalable side chain that's entirely auditable. And on that side chain, way to think about it is the branded tokens are not actually floated. It's only Simple Token that's floated. And so we have price stabilization mechanisms against branded tokens. And it's only when their users need to buy more tokens or cash out or buy more tokens that they come back out to the public blockchain and need to basically drop the stake token in order to support that. So there's a lot of complex technology that goes underneath this, which Ben's going to walk through in a second. But one of the interesting things that as we build out this network is in the first phase of Simple Token, the way to think about it is that Simple Token itself is, as I said, it's a publicly, basically it's a publicly open, kind of tradable Ethereum ERC20 token. But everything happening within these member companies, we call them these MCs, those are all happening on these side chains, and they're all kind of isolated transactions that just happen within their own community. When this gets really interesting is in the future evolution phase where, in reality, a consumer doesn't just use one app. A consumer uses multiple apps. And a consumer not just uses multiple apps, but transacts with people across, within those multiple apps. And so where this gets really exciting is when you have this interoperability across basically any community that is powered by Simple Token, as well as interoperability across the broader Ethereum community as well. And so another way to think about the power of this is you might have, say, one community which is really good at enabling its members to earn tokens, but doesn't have as well good methodologies for how people can spend the tokens. with this interoperability, you can earn on one part of the network and be spending across another, right? So imagine, for instance, let's say there's a mapping app, and the mapping app wants to reward users for walking around with an iPhone or an Android phone with a location-based kind of network, location-based kind of service on, and just walk the streets, and we'll give you tokens for helping us map the world, all right? And so they've got a way to basically for rewarding the user. So they're giving out tokens for basically the contribution the user's giving by helping them with the mapping. But they might not have a way for the user to spend the token, but the coffee shop downstairs might. Right? And that's just an exchange behind the scene that Symbol Token's powering. And so to be able to have this interoperability of, today we have all these reward and incentive programs that are entirely isolated. There's no transparency behind them. If you have Cathay Pacific miles or Asia miles, you can't go to Singapore Air Miles or to Pete's Coffee or whatever it might be, or to Pret a Manger. And imagine the interoperability across all these networks that could be possible. It could be from an online gaming app or site to anything, right? So I want to invite Ben on stage here to talk through a little bit of the technology, because there's actually a lot of complex kind of inner workings that is required in order to make this happen.
Thanks, Jason. First of all, it's great being here in Hong Kong. It's my second week, and hearing Jason talk about life, I get excited about the project myself again. So apologies for this. Sorry, yeah. Let me try to unpack a bit very briefly in a few minutes what we're actually trying to build to support this vision that Jason laid out. And so the way that I like to think about it is really we're trying to separate incentives, right? Because if you create a token right now on Ethereum, it's very hard to separate the the value or the speculative incentive from the utility that you'd want to create a token for. And so we really think of this as two sides of the same token. So one side we keep on Ethereum. Those are the crypto assets that we stake in a smart contract. And we separate the utility part onto a sidechain. What this really allows us to do is almost by analogy, right? Like go back 100 years, we had actual gold in the vault, and we issued little pieces of paper that were much more mobile and easier to work with, that powered cash. What is new today, though, is that this little piece of paper that we can issue to you is cryptographically verifiable. So if you hold such a note, you can actually check that the gold is in the bank. That, I think, was previously a big problem with gold-backed money. And so if we separate the utility onto a sidechain, it gives us mobility because we can get to zero-cost transactions. We can actually have member companies define what the behavior of those tokens is, while still giving the freedom of the users to always take the currency back to the open Ethereum space at any time they want. And it also helps with privacy. Because if we work on a sidechain technology to Ethereum, then we can minimally ramp up 10x performance, plus it is application specific, so you're not competing with other transactions on that sidechain. But we also have actual structure for payment channels. One of the biggest problems with payment channels is the data availability to close the payment channels. Because we have a member company structure and the foundation for high-level guidance, we can make sure that the payment channels can be easily closed, and we can use traditional database technologies to really scale to internet scale. So we have two dimensions on which we can scale this. And in addition, it also solves privacy, right? Because all the payment channel transactions, the receipts are kept off-chain. And so in this sense, both the member company can shield its internal transaction history and the personally identifiable information of the users doesn't have to go on the chain. It only remains pseudo-anonymous balances. And then I think Jason already neatly presented that we want to have this emphasis on the off-chain tools as well, right? So important parts here are a wallet module, that it's embedded and that it can be integrated seamlessly into the application so people can have managed keys without worrying about it, but also that there exists a simple token wallet so that if you start realizing you're dealing with cryptocurrencies, you can get your simple token wallet and start owning your own keys and take ownership of those. Yeah, thanks. Let me move on. And so when I say we split the coin into two, it is very important that you can actually check that the gold is in the bank, right? Because otherwise, how do you know that you're actually holding a piece of value? And so some people might find this a familiar pattern. So what we've done here is effectively implemented a two-phase commit. So if on the left side you have what we call a value chain, like public Ethereum, then you need to show your intent that you want to stake this for branded tokens, so you move it into escrow. We can take a proof of that happening on public Ethereum, move it to the side chain so that you can mint the new branded tokens into escrow there. The member company then needs to sign a receipt, present it to the escrow, which helps release it, and that same receipt, sorry, I also have a cold and my mouth is really dry right now. So I'm having a hard time actually pronouncing words. I'll slow down and then it's fine.
You're doing great, don't worry.
And then the same receipt also unlocks the escrow on public Ethereum to move it in a staking contract. The reverse process is exactly the same. The benefit of this is that you can always independently for every branded token verify that there's actually a valued currency backing your token. I'm going to wrap it up here because I'm out of speech, literally. Sorry about that.
No, you did great, Ben. Thank you. Thank you. So
I'll take questions.
So thank you, Ben. That was great. And so the thing is, we're putting a lot of thought to both the software package that consumer apps or consumer companies will use to deploy Simple Token. Simple Token itself is an ERC20 token that then companies are able to base their own branded tokens off of, and to do so in a way that's fully cryptographically audible is a very important part of the project. So to wrap it up, kind of just give you guys the benefits of Simple Token versus building this yourself, which is very, very daunting for consumer apps. One is we want to make it simple, right? So consumer apps can focus on their own users and their own apps rather than on blockchain technology. The second is that it's very, it's entirely customizable. No two apps are the same, no two economies are the same within those apps, and giving the tools to be able to not just brand the tokens, but to really make the token work for your specific kind of economic situation. And then finally, you can't have an economy without the ability to analyze and optimize and to make sure that you are kind of continuing to have kind of progressive improvement as you go, and that's an important part of it as well. So thank you for entertaining us, and hope you found Simple Token interesting.
Sorry, I know that we're running late, but I still want to ask one question, and then Jason will be here for the rest of the day, so you can ask him questions directly. I think
Simple Token cold.
So I think one of the most important things, again, going back to this idea of like the bridge between kind of crypto and consumer, my question is this. You're probably one of the most experienced person in the room in terms of building and scaling consumer internet companies. I'm curious about your perspective and how you see this developing. Like, why does this work? Like, from my perspective in the blockchain community, like I'm a blockchain person, I only see that. But you see both sides of it because you've now been in the blockchain space like long enough to kind of understand what there is and what there isn't. Why does this work, and why does this approach work?
I think there's a couple things. I mean, one is, when I meet folks who are looking at blockchain technology or looking at tokenization, I always ask two questions. The first thing I ask is, what's your business model? And because I feel like your business model can't just be, we're going to launch a token and raise some money, right? And so there actually needs to be a fundamental business behind this. And so that's one. Is like, what is the actual user benefit you're trying to solve, the problem you're trying to work on, and how are you actually going to make money from that over time through the services that you offer? And then the second is, there actually needs to be a purpose for your token, right? And so, what is the economic model? And so, really understanding that if you're going to, launch a token, that means you're going to manage an economy, and every economy needs to, you can't just be giving out tokens. You need to have a way that they're earned, a way that they're spent, and to look at the actual liquidity in the marketplace for your token. Look, I think blockchain technology is incredibly interesting. We're at the very early days of you know, you call it, you know, decentralized internet, or kind of things that take advantage of decentralized, you know, kind of applications and peer-to-peer transactions. But there is still a long way to go, and we feel like there's a lot of room for folks like us who are building software layers on top of it to kind of enable, you know, companies to kind of have an on-ramp to adopt it. And I think one of the things I'm I guess most excited about is, you know, as I kind of said, one of the aha moments we had was when we started to talk about how, you know, any consumer app could benefit from being on a blockchain. It doesn't have to be their entire business, just that, you know, parts of their business was kind of one of these, oh, a lot of people said, oh yeah, no one's talking that way. It was like kind of like, well, either you're a blockchain company or you're not. But we think that's a false starter, that there's going to be, you know, millions and millions of different use cases for having parts of businesses on blockchain, and we want to help enable that.
So sorry, last question, I lied.
I'll see if someone here has a question also. Go ahead.
Well, so one last question, which is, you know, you're fortunate / deserving enough to have been backed by some of the kind of best VCs over the lifetime of your career. Your current company, People, is backed by Tencent and Greycroft, among others. How are you seeing how they're seeing, like traditional VC is seeing this kind of token space? Because you're going to be launching your own kind of token, and it presents very different types of kind of opportunities / risks. Like, how are they reacting to it?
It's enthusiasm, but I got to say, like, the enthusiasm that we've had so far is from folks who say, we want to be involved in the business you're building. I would say that, you know, while we are doing a token for Simple Token, it's a token because it's a utility token that makes the product work and makes the network work. You know, we need it for the ecosystem. We need it in order to take simple tokens and stake them against creating these branded tokens. I'm very skeptical and cautious about tokens just as an investment mechanism. So when I'm talking to folks about Simple Token, the first thing I'm talking about is, let's talk about the software company we're building. And then if you find the token interesting, it should be because you find the use cases of the token as a utility interesting.
Great. Why don't we give Jason a round of applause?